Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion. It is August 16th, 2019. Happy Friday to you. The weekend is here. For a lot of you out there, you know that means back to school time is either already here or it's coming up. Here in Wilmington, North Carolina, a college town with UNC Wilmington. A lot of college kids coming back for some of them coming for the first time. And so Wilmington is jam-packed with quite a lot of extra people. But that's neither here nor there. You can tell just looking at the tabs up here, I only got 4 today, including the title tab. Everything else indicating that it's rather slow out there right now. Nothing going on in the Atlantic Basin. The Central Pacific is also nice and quiet. A couple of areas to monitor here in the Eastern Pacific. I'm not too worried about this area at all, so we'll put our own little blue X over it. It's this system that could pose a problem for Mexico, maybe somewhere over here down the road. We'll just have to see about that. National Hurricane Center giving it a pretty solid chance, 7 out of 10 shot at developing over the next several days. A high chance of development as it parallels, hopefully, far enough offshore that paralleling action would be to keep most of the inclement weather away from these coastal areas. Remember, it's not just the wind, it is, or storm surge, it is also rainfall. And you never know with these systems. If they come close enough, they could dump a lot of rainfall, and in areas such as parts of Central America and Mexico where you've got these mountains that are very close to the coastline, that could lead to mudslides and other problems related to that. You know what? I am going to pull up one extra tab here, the Tropical Tidbits site. Let's look at a satellite loop of that area. I should have loaded this earlier. Sorry about that. That's okay. We can do it now thanks to the internet and how fast it is these days. So this gives you a good idea. Let's do the nice GIF animation here that Levi has enabled everybody to do. This is how I do it. I like 25 frames. That's good. 12 frames per second. And there we go. All right. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Levi, for making this available with such ease. So here's the system that we're talking about right here. No, it's not this. This seems to be kind of dying away, although it has a pretty good signature to it as well, this disturbance here. But it's this general area that looks like it could develop and parallel the coast here. And then maybe, as the models are starting to suggest a little bit more, come close enough to the Mexican coastline up here that it could pose some problems. So let's take a good look at this over the next few days to see how that evolves. All right, in the Atlantic Basin, the Saharan air starting to lift much more to the north, farther to the north with time. There's still stable, sinking, dry air out over the main development region. I've seen a lot of people, in the scheme of things, relatively speaking, in the weather world anyway. I mean, most people just don't care about the tropics, right, when you think about it. But in the stuff that I follow, message boards, Twitter, etc., a lot of people kind of like scratching their heads. Well, we got this forecast that came out from NOAA of, the likelihood of an above normal season has been bumped up a little bit. Where are all these hurricanes? What's going on? We're going to maybe end August, you still have a couple weeks to go, without a named storm. That is on the table now. It's not likely. I mean, you think about it, it's really hard to do that, but it might happen. And as we look out across the basin here, active tropical wave in the Caribbean Sea, otherwise a lot of dry, stable air. And the stable air part has a lot to do not so much with dust. I've mentioned this before. I'll say it again. It's not just the dust. It's the reason all of that is there. And you get this warm layer in the mid-levels that comes out. And warm air over warm air does not create much in the way of instability. You have to have cold air over warm air so that the warm air can lift into the cold air. And that's all part of basic meteorology. And we see that a lot over the plains, right? When chasers are out there and they talk about the cap. Okay, when the cap breaks, then you have instability. Usually it's colder air that comes in. There are other processes involved with severe weather, but when you have air that's somewhat uniformly distributed in the vertical, there's no instability. Okay, everything is stable. It's copacetic. All right, and so you don't get convection. And without convection, you can't have tropical cyclones. And so we're seeing that prevail over in the deep tropics here. But remember, except shipping interest and any high altitude airline traffic that goes across the Atlantic there on transatlantic flights, it doesn't matter so much in terms of impacts if we get hurricanes developing off the islands here and then they turn out to sea. I mean, it's interesting to watch, don't get me wrong, but later on, and I'm going to show you this, I'm leading up to something here. It's when they develop, and I know it's hard to see here, there's the islands, the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico through the Dominican Republic, Cuba, etc., the Bahamas, the East Coast, wherever. That's where we live. I don't know anybody that lives out here in the middle of the main development region. There's no land out there. And so there's a lot of emphasis on, well, the MDR is hostile, and okay, and maybe on Monday when I do a longer update and we put things into context, it's time to revisit, and we will be fair and balanced about it, which hurricanes came from the main development region and which hurricanes didn't. Well, just real quick, Michael sure didn't. Katrina, its tropical wave did, but Katrina was not an MDR hurricane, a long track hurricane. Some that were, and I'll just hint on this now, Ike, yes. Allen in 1980, yes. Okay, Irma, yes. So it matters, but in terms of direct impacts to areas specifically in the United States, if we just talk about the United States for a moment, you can get development close to home, and certainly that holds true for elsewhere. Don't get me wrong, but this whole idea that if the MDR is shut down, okay, well, we're not having a hurricane season, is wrong. That's not the right way to think about it. If you're looking at an active season in terms of overall production, then yes, looking at the bigger picture is important. But in terms of impact, I want to know what's going to develop and where. And then, how strong will it be and where is it going to go after it's developed? Okay? And I think that makes the most sense. That's pretty much what all of us want to know. So while this is all closed up, we'll see. We have plenty of time left on the clock, and I'm going to show you that in just a moment. Actually, right now, because I had this up as the 5th. There we go. All right. So I was chatting with Ben Knoll on Twitter last night, some direct messaging with him, and he shared this with me. This comes from the Weather Models site, weathermodels.com. If you are a subscriber to that site, you get access to these types of products. And it's a wonderful tool for meteorologists and weather enthusiasts alike to understand what may be coming. And I showed this the other day. Here's another example of it. This type of graphic. So this Hofmoeller diagram, again, try to understand that time is represented as the present up here, the future down here. How far into the future? Well, pretty close to the end of September at the bottom. All right, so P is for present at the top, F is for the future at the bottom. All right, and as you go through time, this is the area, 5 degrees. No, actually, this is a different slice. Basically, it's the tropics. All right, there's the equator going right through there. And so you're looking at what's happening in the tropics with the velocity potential. And this is the ECMWF ensemble mean 200 millibar velocity potential anomaly, the departure from the average, the norm. And that's the basic way to look at it. Green is typically upward motion, and you can see, for the most part, the Euro and its ensemble prediction system indicating quite a bit of upward motion setting up for a good deal of the Atlantic Basin, because you can translate this down to here on the map, and that's where it would be occurring. Does that make sense? So sinking generally setting in over this area of the globe, while general rising followed by another sinking pattern setting up. But then, as I showed recently, we go to just your, no anomalies in here, to negative velocities. And in this case, negative means more favorable, positive velocities is sinking motion, and that's less favorable. So look at that large green blob right there. That sets up shop west of 60 degrees longitude into the eastern Pacific, generally. And for a period of time from about mid-September on, things get favorable. And apparently, very much so. But before that time, the ensemble prediction system indicating, here's Africa. Look at, once this sinking gets past, which is now, look at this, 21st, 26th, 1st of September, 6th of September, so forth and so on, a period of substantial upward motion and then just general negative velocities, meaning that it's an anomaly in the negative, meaning it favors upward motion. Wow, Africa should be lit up. All these tropical waves get started, and they propagate westward off the continent. Around the time that this starts to set up, you got all these seedlings coming out. Bam, they move into an area. If you understand the way that the time and the space and everything works, this is a signal that things are going to pick up. And, that's about all I can show you. I mean, there's conjecturing, and everything is set. This is like waiting for the big game. It could be the Super Bowl, the national championship in football, college basketball, a big tennis match, a hockey game, it doesn't matter. Everything's ready. The players are there. Everybody's ready to go. You got experts that are, giving their keys to the game, the whole bit. And sports and weather, there's my book. Forget about writing a history of my hurricane work. I should do a book on sports and hurricanes and sports and weather in general. And it's very, very interesting how they are analogous to each other. Until the game actually starts, you don't know what's going to happen. We know there's going to be a game, and in this case, there is going to be a peak to the hurricane season. And I just worry a little bit that people, they don't so much say, well, nothing's happening, so I don't care. But you hear a forecast for above normal activity, and then you also hear how quiet August is, and you begin to question things. So understanding it in the bigger picture, ladies and gentlemen, you can have an entire hurricane season in 6 weeks. Look at 2004. And I know that's 15 years ago, but you only need to look at 2004 as an example of that. There you go. Even 2008, you crammed a lot in a fairly short amount of time. When was that time? Typically, the peaks of the season, mid-August through the end of September into early October. And these last few years, just to remind you, 2015, Joaquin, October. 2016, Matthew, October. 2017, and Nate, still, October hurricane, off of a very busy hurricane season, which gave us Irma, Jose, and Maria. 2018, Michael, October. And each of them got stronger as we went along, didn't they? They sure did. So don't think it's not coming, because it is. Not a guarantee, but, they're coming, and we just got to be ready for it when it does happen. All right, so that's it. That's all I'm going to talk about today. Nothing else to even worry about at the moment, so have a good weekend in front of you. Maybe go and do something to prepare. Just take inventory of all your stuff, your generator. Try that out. See if it still works. Use this quiet time, just like I've been doing, to make sure my equipment is going to be ready for when the hurricanes do show up, to do the same for you on a personal level. And I've been doing that as well. Got plenty of water jugs stored away for the in case we need them. You just never know. All right, so that is it from me for today. Have a great rest of your Friday and a great and safe weekend ahead. I'll pop in Saturday and Sunday to talk about what's happening in the Eastern Pacific specifically, because it does look like something's going to develop there. We want to keep an eye on our friends in Mexico. It's been a while since we've had a Pacific threat 4 Pacific Mexico. So let's make sure we follow that. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. As always, thanks for tuning in from whatever device you happen to be doing so from. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you again over the weekend.